Good evening, my name doesn't matter. What matters is your worth. And too often, by the time people wake up and realize how valuable you truly are, it's already too late. See, we live in a world where we celebrate what's shiny, new, convenient. But real value isn't loud. Real loyalty doesn't scream for attention. Real love doesn't beg to be chosen. It stays, it nurtures, it sacrifices, and that is why so many men realize your worth when you're gone. They realize it when you stop texting, when your care turns cold, when your silence echoes louder than your words ever did. But by then, you're no longer waiting. Let's be honest, people don't crave peace until their world starts burning. Men often chase thrill, excitement, temporary highs. But when life humbles them, when the parties end, the friends vanish, and reality smacks them in the face, they start longing for stability. That's when they remember you. The woman who listened, the woman who stood by their side when they had nothing, the one who knew their weaknesses and still believed in their strength. But back then, it didn't excite them. Back then, your peace felt boring. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Lara. She supported her boyfriend through 3 job losses, cooked for him when he was broke, applied to jobs for him, even paid his rent once. But when he finally landed a good job, he said she wasn't ambitious enough for him. He left. 2 years later, after a breakup and a failed startup, he sent her a message. "You were the only one who really saw me. I didn't realize what I had." She didn't even reply. Because her silence said it all. You don't get to value me now just because the world doesn't. This is what happens. Men realize your worth when they feel unstable, and remember the woman who made life feel safe. But here's the truth. You're not a shelter just for storms. You're not a safe option they can run to after chasing chaos. You are a kingdom. You deserve someone who chooses you before the flood. People often mistake peace for weakness. They get so used to drama, they don't know what to do with peace. But let them taste the consequences of their choices. Let them see what it feels like to lose the woman who brought calm into their storm. And you stop dimming your light just to be seen. You stop softening your power so they feel strong. One day they'll remember your warmth when everything else goes cold, but by then, you'll be a fire they can't stand next to anymore. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been so solid for someone that they just stopped noticing? You were there every day, every call, every text. You showed up even when you were exhausted. You gave even when your cup was empty. You loved even when you weren't loved the same way back, and they got used to it. That's the painful truth about consistency. It becomes invisible. See, men often don't realize how powerful your consistency was until they face someone inconsistent. Someone who doesn't call back, who doesn't listen, who doesn't care deeply. Then suddenly, your name, your face, your presence, it hits them like a ghost that won't leave. Let me give you a real story. There was a guy named Tariq. His girlfriend, Ayesha, was the kind of woman who checked in every morning, prayed for him at night, remembered the little things. His mother's birthday, his favorite snack after a long day, even how he liked his coffee. She gave and gave and gave. But you know what he said one day. You don't challenge me. I want someone with a little more fire. So he left for someone else, someone he thought had spark. Within 2 months, that new girl ghosted him on his birthday. She didn't call back for 3 days. She forgot he had an interview, didn't care when he was sick, and suddenly, that spark didn't feel so bright. That's when it hit him. Ayesha never missed a day. But guess what? When he tried to come back, her number was changed. Because a woman who gives her heart daily doesn't wait forever. Here's the harsh truth. Consistency is a luxury in a world full of distractions. And when someone offers it without conditions, it should never be taken lightly. But men often mistake it for predictability. They confuse comfort with boredom. They forget that loyalty, care, and presence are the rarest currencies in this world. You are not someone who just checks in. You are someone who anchors. You hold down storms. You protect hearts. You build routine, which is the foundation of trust. But people don't always see the value of something solid until they're tossed around by everything unstable. That's why they realize your worth too late. Because after the thrill fades and inconsistency breaks them down, they start craving the one person who never wavered, who always cared, who always came through. You were their daily sunrise, but they chased lightning, and now they live in the dark. So if you're someone who's been consistent and underappreciated, let me say this to you loud and clear. Your love is not a background song. It's the whole damn playlist. Don't let anyone treat your reliability like a given. Don't let them suck your energy dry and then say you weren't exciting enough, because excitement fades, but consistency, that builds empires. And if they left you for chaos, let them learn. One missed call, one forgotten birthday, one cold shoulder. That's all it takes for them to suddenly realize the value of the one person who never let them feel alone. But by the time they come crawling back, looking for the stability they walked away from, be the locked door, not out of revenge, but because you finally realize you were the prize all along. Patience is often mistaken for passiveness. Let me say that again, patience is not weakness. Patience is strength under control. It's the storm that chooses not to destroy. It's fire that chooses to warm instead of burn. But the sad truth is, most men don't recognize this strength. They see you enduring, staying, forgiving, and they think you'll always be there. They think your silence means surrender. They think your calm means compliance. They think your patience means you'll tolerate anything. Until one day, you walk away, no warning, no final argument, no emotional breakdown, just silence. And that silence, it screams louder than anything you ever said. Let me take you into a real moment. There was a woman named Mira. For 5 years, she stayed in a relationship with a man who always said, "I'll change." He never did. She forgave the late replies, the forgotten dates, the emotional unavailability, the lies. Every time she told herself, maybe next month he'll appreciate me. He didn't. She stopped asking for more. She stopped fighting. She stopped crying. She just smiled less, laughed less, and then one ordinary Tuesday she left. She packed her things, blocked his number, and disappeared from his life like she never existed. No drama, no good. By letter, no closure, and suddenly he woke up. "Why didn't you tell me it was that serious?" She did. He just didn't listen. That's how it works. Men don't notice your quiet suffering. They think, she's strong, she can take it. But your strength wasn't their license to mistreat you. It was your gift, and they abused it. See, patience is choosing to stay when you have every reason to leave. But once your soul gets tired, once the damage becomes too deep, once your love turns into exhaustion, that's it. And when you finally leave without a word, it breaks them. Because they never believed you would. They were betting on your endurance. They never thought you'd stop being the one to hold it all together. But you did, and that's when they realize it wasn't weakness keeping you there. It was love, a love that asked for nothing in return except to be respected and cherished. You gave them time, chances, warnings, and still, they ignored your worth. Now they feel your absence like 1,000 bricks on their chest. And it's not just the loss of you. It's the regret of what they did with the time you gave them. So if you're the patient one, the one who's been waiting, understanding, forgiving, understand this. Your patience is gold. But gold doesn't belong in places that only recognize its value after it's gone. Stop shrinking your pain just to keep someone else comfortable. Stop giving endless tries to someone who sees your heart as a safety net. Let them miss you. Let them learn what life feels like without your calm and their chaos. And when they come back saying, "I didn't realize how much you meant to me," don't open that door. Because if they couldn't see your worth in your quiet loyalty, your gentle love, your unwavering patience, they don't deserve the sound of your voice anymore. You're not weak. You were strong enough to love someone who didn't even know how to be loved. And that strength, it belongs to you now. There's a dangerous line people cross when they start believing your love is a responsibility, not a choice. When you're the one who listens to their pain, reminds them of their worth, builds them up when they're falling apart, they begin to expect it. Like it's your job, like you owe them that loyalty, and that's when your love becomes invisible. They stop saying thank you, they stop checking on your heart, they stop asking, "Are you okay?" because they think you're always okay. That you don't need support because you're the one giving it. Let me share a real, life truth. A woman named Sana loved a man who had been through hell, broken family, failed dreams, years of insecurity. She became his anchor. When he doubted himself, she reminded him who he was. When he lost opportunities, she helped him apply again. When he cried, she held him without judgment. But over time, he changed. Not because of success, but because he forgot who stood behind it. He started saying things like, "You're just being dramatic. Why do you always make it about you? You knew I had a lot going on." He thought her support was duty, not devotion. Until the day came when she stopped offering it. No more encouragement, no more midnight talks, no more "I believe in you" texts. Suddenly, life got quiet, and that's when the walls started closing in on him. That's when he realized, the world is cold without someone who loves you warm. See, men often realize your worth when they no longer have a safety net, when there's no one cheering for them when they fail, no one reminding them that they're enough. That's when your absence hits them like a punch in the gut, because they never thought you'd stop being their support system. But support is not obligation. It's a gift, and gifts can be withdrawn when they're abused. Here's what most people don't understand. You were lifting them up even when you were sinking. You were pushing them forward while pulling your own weight. You were loving them while learning to love yourself. And yet, they gave you crumbs in return. They thought you were strong enough to handle your own storms, so they stopped checking if you were drowning. And when you finally let go of them, they fell because they never learned to walk without your hand. Let them face the silence. Let them feel the emptiness that comes when someone who carried their pain walks away for good. Because if they couldn't value the emotional labor you gave freely, they don't deserve the healing you brought into their chaos. You are not created to fix broken men who refuse to grow. You are not made to carry adults who never learned to stand. You are not a therapist. You are not a mother. You are a partner. And partnership means both give. Both show up, both nurture, so when they finally sit in a room alone, overwhelmed by the weight of their own life, they'll remember the nights you sat with them in theirs, but by then you'll have given that strength to yourself. You are not obligated to stay where you're not seen. You're not meant to pour into cups that only drain you. You are worthy of love that supports you just as fiercely as you've supported others. And when they realize that, it'll be in the echo of your absence, not in the warmth of your presence, because they mistook your heart for a home they could live in rent-free. But now the door is locked, and the key is gone. Forgiveness is a beautiful thing. But forgiveness without change becomes a cycle of self-destruction, and too many men, they mistake your forgiving heart as a license to keep hurting you. They break your trust, and you patch it up. They raise their voice, and you lower yours. They disappear for days, and you welcome them back with open arms, and every time you forgive, they think, "She'll never leave." But what they don't realize is that every forgiveness takes a piece of your soul. Every time you swallow your pain to protect their ego, a part of your light dims, until one day you don't cry anymore, you don't argue, you don't wait, you don't even explain, you just choose peace. Let me tell you about Alina. She was in love with a man who was emotionally reckless. He'd ignore her for days after fights, blame her for everything, cheat, lie, gaslight, then cry and say, "You know I love you, please forgive me." And she did. Again and again and again, until the day she stood in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. She used to be full of life. She used to laugh without guilt. She used to walk into a room and light it up. But now she felt small, silent, shaky. That night she packed her things and left, not in anger but in clarity, because choosing peace is not a betrayal of love. It's a rescue mission for your own soul. Men often confuse a forgiving woman with a weak one. They believe that tears mean dependence, that silence means acceptance. But they don't understand. You weren't forgiving them because you needed them. You were forgiving because that's who you are. You believed in healing. You believed in second chances. You believed that love could overcome flaws. But when the same hurt keeps repeating, when apologies become routines, when promises feel like lies waiting to happen, you wake up. And when a woman with a forgiving heart wakes up, She becomes untouchable, not angry, not bitter, not spiteful, just unavailable, unavailable to the pain, unavailable to the drama, unavailable to the man who thought he could gamble with her heart forever. Because peace, it's not loud, it's walking away from what breaks you. It's saying no more without raising your voice. It's protecting your heart without needing to prove your point. And when you finally choose peace, something magical happens. You remember who you were before the pain. You reclaim your laughter. You rebuild your boundaries. You rise. The man who thought you'd always be there suddenly sees your back as you walk away. And that's when regret kicks in like a sledgehammer. She was the one. I pushed her too far. I thought she'd never leave. But it's too late, because love isn't supposed to hurt like hell. Forgiveness isn't supposed to be abused, and your heart isn't a punching bag for someone else's brokenness. You deserve peace that stays, love that heals, and a partner who doesn't need 100 chances to get it right. So if you're the woman who keeps forgiving and hoping, let me say this. Don't let love cost you your dignity. Don't let loyalty make you lose yourself. Don't let I'm sorry be the lullaby that puts you back to sleep. Choose peace, even if it means walking away alone, because the quiet that comes after choosing yourself, it's louder than any apology you never got. And when they finally realize what they lost, it'll be a storm in their soul. But for you, it'll be the calm you should have chosen long ago. Standards are not walls, they're boundaries with purpose. They protect your peace, your energy, and your worth. But far too often, when you lay those standards down in a relationship, some men see them as challenges, not principles. You say, I need communication. They call you needy. You say, I won't tolerate disrespect. They say you're too sensitive. You say, I expect effort. They say you're asking for too much. So what do? They ignore your standards. They test your limits. They assume your boundaries are negotiable. Why? Because they think you're not going anywhere. They think you'll lower your expectations just to keep them close. And for a while, maybe you do, because you want the relationship to work. You believe in growth, you give grace, but here's what happens. Every time you bend your boundaries, you break a piece of yourself. Now let me tell you about a woman named Zoya. Zoya had standards, no emotional games, open communication, and mutual respect. She laid them down early. The man she was dating said, of course, that's how it should be. But months later, he started playing cold, hot games, disappearing for days, flirting with other women and saying, relax, we're not married. She reminded him of her standards, again and again, but he didn't change because he thought she'd always stay, until one day she didn't, and not long after, she met someone new, a man who listened when she spoke, who didn't make her beg for attention, who didn't treat her standards like ultimatums, but like guidelines for a real connection. When her ex saw them together, he sent a message, I didn't know how good I had it until I saw someone else treating you right. That's the pattern. Some men won't honor your standards until someone else steps up and respects them because they never believed you'd find better. They thought they were your best option. They assumed you'd keep compromising just to feel love. But here's what they never realized. Your standards were never too high. They were just too high for them. A real man won't be offended by your boundaries. He'll be inspired by them. He'll meet them. He'll exceed them. Not out of pressure, but out of respect. Your worth isn't in how much you can endure. It's in how firmly you can stand when someone tries to treat you like less than you deserve. Let them call you too much. Let them say, you'll never find someone like me. Because one day, when they see you being loved correctly, without begging, without chasing, without shrinking yourself to fit, they'll finally understand you weren't asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. So keep your standards. Don't apologize for them. Don't lower them for temporary attention, because the one who's meant for you won't make you choose between love and self-respect. They'll know that honoring your standards is just the baseline. And the men who didn't, let them watch from a distance as someone else gives you what they never did, not because you were lucky, but because you stopped settling for almost. You remembered who you were. And you finally made them do the same.